When you partner with Axon, you immediately gain access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. We carry all major brands and sizes of tires and wheels. We specialize in large diameter wheels for large equipment. We have one of the largest OEM replacement wheel inventories in North America. Known for extreme flotation setups, duals, and triples, we have wheels for all makes and models of tractors, sprayers, combines, and grain carts. If we don't have the wheel in stock, we'll custom build, sandblast, and paint in-house. There isn't a more vast inventory in North America dedicated to helping dealers move more iron. With facilities on the West Coast and in the heart of the Midwest, leverage our 230,000 square feet of indoor inventory to solve any problem a grower may have. Move more iron with Axon.
Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Valley Transportation. I got Parker Johnson back here talking about what's happening in the world of transportation. So Parker, how you doing, bud?
Real good. How are you doing, Casey?
Doing good, man. There's been a few things going on. We're kind of getting into that time of year where things are kind of starting to pick up just a little bit. You got that pre-harvest vibe going on. You know, guys are looking around, kind of knowing what they've, kind of guessing what they're going to have, barring some big hailstorm coming through type of thing. But for the most part, you know, things are kind of moving in that direction where we know things are going. So, Parker, as you're taking a look out there, talk a little bit about what you're seeing move and where are you getting it, where are you moving it to?
Yeah, so this past month, it seems like it's picked up quite a bit from, the month prior when we were talking. But this last month, we got just hammered with tillage equipment out of North Dakota, out of the John Deere factories.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
All of a sudden, my one customer had like 22 of these 2730 chisel plows come available.
Sure.
And we had 3 or 4 other customers that had 20 or something come available.
Yeah.
All at once. Usually them things, they're staggered.
Yeah.
You preload your trailers, you just leave your trailer in their yard, they let you know when it's full. Well, that wasn't the case this time. They had so many come available, they actually staged them all in piles out front. They just send trucks in and they load it. The majority of those went to the Midwest, Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota. The majority of where those went anyway, but otherwise for me personally, I got some customers on the East Coast. A lot of combine heads have come out this past month out of the East Moline factory. Skid loaders as well. I mean, that kept us busy for a while too.
Yeah.
But I mean, the stuff going to the west, California, Arizona, for us in particular anyway, has really slowed down. I mean, I used to have so many trucks out there I could, snag these other loads coming out of Arizona that I get, and I just haven't had any trucks out there because we haven't had much for freight going that way.
Yeah.
But, mainly Midwest, a lot of stuff out in Colorado. We got a bunch of customers out in Colorado where they ship a lot of equipment to.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, majority of the stuff that we see is kind of been sticking around the Midwest.
Yeah. Okay. When you're looking at the amount of stuff coming through, are you seeing mostly? Is there a lot of combine movement, tractor movement? What? I know you talked about tillage there a little bit, but is it more combines and tractors, or what is it?
Yeah, there's the tractor movement. I mean, that's always going to be there. The new stuff out of the factories, we haven't particularly seen a lot lately. I'm sure they're still moving some stuff, but combines, not so much out of the factory, but we're getting a few people, getting prepared for harvest, getting quotes and starting to line up some of that stuff, which helps a lot. It's not a last second thing when harvest does come around, but
yeah,
the combines, continue to move. Tractors always move. Smaller tractors, lower tractors, all that, specialty things.
Yeah. So we hit on this a little bit last time, and we didn't really dive into it, and I had a million questions after I went back and listened to the podcast and was editing it and everything. So you kind of hit on a little bit. We're talking about, knowing the person that's hauling your truck or you're hauling your freight, and what's that look like, and how's that play into your decision-making process? So as a heavy hauler, talk a little bit about some of the, like, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 questions that I should be asking someone when they call me on the phone that says, hey, you know, I want to haul your stuff, and you go look up their website, and all they have pictures of are just, you know, non-heavy equipment moving stuff. I mean, so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so if you're calling carriers asking for freight quote, you can kind of tell right off the bat whether or not they know what they're talking about. You know, you call up and you say, hey, I got a John Deere 8R 370 or whatever. If they question that, you know, I wouldn't talk to them any longer, you know. but
Yeah.
You know, if they start asking you for dimensions, which I do too sometimes, but on a tractor, I mean, you know, they're pretty standard. You know, you take your duals off, you're 10 feet wide. If they don't know what they're talking about, that's red flag number 1. Definitely ask what they carry for cargo insurance. You know, the standard minimum is $100,000, which that doesn't cover anything anymore.
Right.
You know, I mean, skid loaders are over $100,000.
Right. Yeah.
Bean has are over $100,000.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, you get into combines, you know, $5, $6, $7 million, whatever. If that 100,000 isn't going to go very far if that combine tips off their trailer and it's considered total.
Right.
You know, and then another thing, just ask them what they're going to be using for trailers. You know, you obviously can't put a 4-wheel drive tractor or a combine on a step back trailer.
Right.
Make sure they got a detach with outriggers and stuff like that. And if you got a combine that has tracks on it, you definitely want slide outs. You know, and there's not a lot of carriers that run them because it adds so much weight to their trailer, and it's a more expensive trailer to buy.
Right. So when you're looking at, so let's talk about the cargo insurance part for just a little bit. What do you think the standard for a heavy hauler should be?
It should be $1 million.
$1 million? Yeah.
That's what we carry. You know, there's $5 million cargo insurance, and I can't remember if it's $5 or $6 million in liability, and then there's a whole bunch of umbrellas off of that.
Right.
You know, 500 should be the standard if you want to be, you know, hauling the big stuff. You know, if you're a hot shot carrier, 100 grand's fine because, you know, all you're getting is, you know, maybe a used skid loader or, you know, something small.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 500 would be a good number to have.
Right. Okay. So when you're looking at like your trailers a little bit, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. To me, I've seen some guys come in with some stuff where they're trying to use outriggers that I'm pretty sure they built at the previous truck stop before they got to my yard. You know, and you start looking at some of the stuff, and you see how rickety it is, and those kind of things, and those. If I'm asking that question, like tell me a little bit about your trailer, and you know you get a detached, but talk to me a little bit about your outrigger. What kind of questions are you going to ask about that?
Yeah, make sure that they got solid old, you know, outrigger boards. You know, if you got slide outs, you don't need boards. You know,
Right.
Piece of equipment can transition across that no problem. But with the swing outs, if you don't have boards down, you know, they'll poke right through the tires, your combine, your sprayer, whatever you're trying to put on there that requires the outriggers.
Yeah.
And we've had that on our brokerage side of it. You know, they'll send a carrier in that has, you know, 1x12 pine, you know, boards, and they'll tell us that, hey, yeah, I got some good boards. Well, once you start driving that sprayer across there and that board breaks, it sticks right through that tire. That's an expensive cargo car.
Yeah.
You know, the price of tires anymore is insane.
Yeah. Tires are wicked expensive for what they are. I mean, round, black, and rubber, and they're wicked expensive. You know what I mean? When you're looking at kind of, damn, I had a good question too, Parker. This was going to change the way that people live their life. This question I was going to ask. I totally forgot it.
I probably had a good answer for it too.
When you're looking at the amount of equipment that you're moving, when you're looking at logistics as far as, you know what, when I get there, I'm going to need to pull the tires off the combine or something like that and, you know, load it on the frame and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going through, like, what's the best way to have that communication with the, because there's a lot of times where I'll have the conversation with you or another dispatch or something like that, and somewhere along the line it just gets lost in translation as to what's expected when the truck shows up. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So what questions should I be asking? Like, hey, because it's just pretend like I don't know
Right.
anything.
So,
I mean, which is true.
guy, if you got the right guy and you call me, I'll tell you how it's gonna work.
Right. Yeah.
Here's how I want to do it. This is I've been doing it for a long time. This is the way that works best. With combine, we can haul it one or two ways. We can remove all the tires off and get it as narrow as we possibly can, or we can just remove the duals and run it a little bit wide. And if we need escorts, that's how much. I'll tell you up front what your escorts are going to cost at whatever dimensions we agree upon. And obviously, the salesman at the dealership or whoever's selling the equipment should talk to the guy that they're selling it to and say, hey, be prepared that you might have to get your jacks out, you might have to put tires back on, final drives, whatever it might be. As long as everybody's in the loop, deliveries go pretty seamless.
Yeah. Are you seeing more combines, especially these bigger ones, these big class 10, 11 combines as they come out of the factories? Are you seeing more of those being loaded on the frame out of the factory and then shipped that way?
With John Deere and I'm pretty sure Case as well. Yeah, you pull in, they set it down, you have your blocks set out, they drop it on the frame. The tires ship, ahead of the combine itself.
Yeah.
So they're already at the receiver wherever you're bringing that combine to.
Yep. Are there more and more of those? Just combines in general? Are you starting to see more of that? Because it seems like about everyone we see come in is on the frame. It seems like
all the new ones will always be on the frame.
Okay.
And that, when I'm hauling used stuff, it depends on which states we go through, depending on the regulations on how wide you can be before you get escorts. Sometimes it's worth just to leave the tires on and escort it compared to spending a day of shop time. However much your techs get paid to remove all the stuff off of there.
Yeah.
And just drive it on, bring it to the spot, and drop it off.
So I know there's a million variables going to this next answer here that I'm about to, for the question I'm about to ask you here. But what's an average escort look like? I mean, cost wise, is that easy to say? Like you could expect saying like $5,000, or is it so wide that you have to price it first?
Well, when you started asking that question, the only thing I could talk about was Tim the dairy farmer.
Yeah.
I hope he listens.
I know what answer he would give him. Yeah.
I was going to say hopefully tall and blonde, but oh shoot! But cost-wise, escorts are very expensive anymore. They used to run for $1.25, $1.50 a mile down the road. Now they're anywhere from $2.25 to $2.50 a mile.
Yeah.
If you have a long enough distance, if they have to spend the night, you have to give them like a $250 overnight fee just to hang out for the night and be ready again for tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And escorts, it gets hard. You got to make sure. If you load in the afternoon, you don't want to set up an escort for that afternoon. You want to set it up for the morning because you're not going to get many miles out of them. In the evening. But they've gotten a lot more expensive. Like when they used to do just a short trip, say 100 miles across one state or something like that, they'd have like a day rate of $250. Well, now the day rate is like $500 or $600.
Yeah.
Just to hang out with you for 100 miles.
Yep. Are more and more states starting to require escorts in the past?
They haven't changed. I've been here for 12 years, and I got this little notebook, that shows you what the width you can be before you need them, and every state's completely different. And none of them really ever change. I remember one time Missouri a few years back went from 12.4 wide to 12.6, so they gave us an extra 2 inches that we could be oversized.
Yeah.
And that does help sometimes, Sometimes you get sprayers that are just a little over 12 or 12.4 wide or something like that. But with construction season, you never know where you're going to get one.
Right.
You might run into a 10 wide restriction. You have to get routed off the interstate, and you might have escorts for 10 miles or something weird like that.
Yeah.
And the worst part is a lot of times you don't know. It's hard to determine or keep up where all the construction is, throughout the year. You won't know until you order a permit, and all of a sudden, oh, I got to go back to the customer and tell them I need this $500 escort because I'm getting routed off the interstate.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's plenty of stuff to realize. So that's the point I'm making here asking these questions, is that these are all the questions that you should be asking somebody when they call you on the phone. I'm like you when someone calls me and says, hey, we got some combines moving, and they're like, okay, what is that? And I'm like, you don't know what a combine is? I mean, if you, it's always picked up most not outlandish, but I mean, one of the more common things that it's going to require some, engineering type thinking to get it on your trailer and how to lock it down on the trailer, get it all chained down and get it all secure and everything else. It's not like hauling a tractor that are just, it's like tractor's like hauling a semi truck or something like that. It's just a bigger version of it, where combine's a little more complicated because you have a lot more, you got grain augers and you've got, different stuff that's, sticking up, and they're tall and all the stuff that comes into that. So I ask those questions a lot, and I've seen those guys come in with the 1x12 pine boards, and they drive those things on there, and that board pops up and slants back down, and it broke about 10 foot onto the trailer, and they're like, well, what do we do now? We need to get your wheel loader out here and let's pick it up. And I'm like, no, we are not doing that. So
we're calling the insurance company right now.
If you don't notice, the tires are flat, so you've got a bigger problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into moving all these bigger things, and with our heavy haul department, I don't deal a whole lot with them. I mean, we're hauling 125,000 pound cranes, wheel loaders, excavators, stuff like that. I mean, a lot of stuff goes into that, and how you get it tore down so you can take as much weight off as you possibly can, and how many loads you need to haul all the extra stuff.
Yeah, I've seen one D11 come in on a truck, and it came in on like 3 or 4 different trucks. I can't remember what it was. I think the blade was on one, the cab was on one, and I think the ripper was on another or something like that. And it was
probably off.
Yeah, but it was also the size of a small apartment building. So I mean, it was it's
they're like 18 feet tall. They're 18 feet wide.
Yeah, you can freebase jump off the top of that thing and still use your parachute. But it was it's impressive how much it is. But then it goes back to knowing the right person to latch that down and get it secure across the way. Because it's not just that you're worried about, it falling off the trailer. It's falling off the trailer and killing somebody too. I mean, that's the other thing too.
Hitting a car or swerving in traffic, whatever it might be. It gets dangerous when you're hauling stuff that big. You got to have the right guy doing it.
Yeah, we've all seen the pictures of the excavator stuck through the top of a bridge. I mean, everyone's seen those pictures. And that's not the machine that you want to have happen with that. And then as a trucking company, I mean, the liability that you have now, you got to fix a bridge. It's not just the machine. You got to fix the bridge too, and that's a whole nother thing.
And the majority of the times that ever happens is truck driver error. I mean, they leave the stick up in the air.
Sure. Yeah.
They don't have it curled around underneath all the way. And I've seen it happen where people load 2 backhoes on a trailer and they don't think they have enough room, so they leave the booms in the air. Bad deal.
Yeah.
Same deal. That the stick's sticking up in the air and they clip that bridge. It's an expensive day.
Yeah. So little things like that really add up to something major, because most of the time, especially if it's a used piece, who's ever buying that piece from you is ready to use it. And now you have a customer that's mad, and you now have to jump through all the hoops to go find a different one. And trust me, when that cascade of things go wrong, it's a damn free-for-all for the rest of the time, because nothing else goes right either. So it's one thing after another.
Your insurance company takes forever to put the money out, and that guy's out of tractor for a lot longer than you think.
Yeah, so it's a whole thing. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about UPS. UPS is in the news here. They're mad as hell, not going to take it anymore, and they're going to go on strike, sounds like, and that's gonna leave a giant hole in the world of freight. Not necessarily heavy freight, but I mean just freight in general. As you look at buying stuff from Amazon and everywhere, I mean everything else is bought online, so all that stuff gets shipped around the way it does. Looking at that, are you guys looking at any opportunities that could be, on your van side or something like that could be popping up your way?
Yeah, I haven't really talked about it with our dispatcher that does our van stuff. I mean, I don't know how you'd even get in on something like that, but think there's going to be an opportunity for somebody out there, because I think I read UPS carries, I think it was like a quarter of everything, right? Like,
yeah, it's a big number.
I mean, UPS, FedEx, all them other parcel carriers,
Yeah.
I think they have like a quarter of it. And, you know, everybody expects that 1 to 2 day delivery.
Yep.
It could really slow up.
Yeah. Yeah, I could throw a big wrench and stuff. I mean, Amazon Prime's 2-day guarantee is more like a 5-day guarantee after post-COVID, so it's going to be like 2 weeks probably or longer if something like that does happen. So
yeah. Prior to COVID, there was like 1-day delivery on some stuff.
Oh yeah. And you start looking at companies like FedEx and DHL and all those different places that are out there like that. The amount of ramp up time that they have, because they can't go make that investment now on a whim, you know, that they might do this, you know. So it's going to be completely reactionary to what they're going to be able to do, and you won't be able to ramp up your logistics fast enough and for long enough, because as soon as they come back online, then you're going to go right back to the way it was, you know.
You're not going to find enough people to to help.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole thing all the way up through.
There's already a shortage of workers, and you're not going to find a bunch of people that just willy-nilly come work for you.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough run there for a while, and if that does happen. So hope that doesn't happen. Hope they get things worked out and get things back in. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, we've seen it on the manufacturing side, on the ag side with you know, the John Deere strike and Case's strike and those kind of things, and what we've seen there. So it's been we see what the outcomes of that look like, and it's never any good. So knock on wood, they can get the stuff worked out.
Last year, the John Deere went on strike, and then all the factories there was just a backlog of freight by the time.
Yeah.
Oh, they had all their like office people working on the factory floor, and things were getting messed up, and that was a tricky deal.
Yeah, you know, those manufacturers, all of them, just have had just issues with that. So it'll work its way out.
Get them paid so it doesn't cause any problems.
Exactly right. So, all right, Parker, good stuff, man. Probably a good place to stop. If folks want to reach out to you and get more information or book some freight, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, give me a call at 800-657-4910 or shoot me an email at pjohnson@valleytransinc.com.
Right on. Well, Parker, I look forward to seeing you guys in Nashville coming up here not too long, about a month.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hope it's not too hot. I mean, the way the country's been, it's hot and dry everywhere.
Yeah, I hope. And it's living out here where I live, there's no humidity. Well, there's not as much humidity. So when you go to places like that, it's like so you walk outside and someone throws a hot bucket of water on you as you're walking out the door. So it's good times. But nonetheless, I've never had a bad time in Nashville, and I've tried as hard as I can to have a bad time, and I can't do it.
I've never. Well, if I did have a bad time, I wouldn't have remembered it anyway.
The bad times in the morning, right? That's when the bad times come around, right?
That's for sure.
Right on, man. Well, appreciate you being on the podcast. We'll talk to you again next month.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Casey.
Right on, man. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. Go to LinkedIn at Moving Iron Podcast. Go to the YouTube channel, see the video version of this over at the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel, and go to Moving Iron LLC for everything Moving Iron related. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour with Parker Johnson. Let's go do some iron, folks. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here.